What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Shifting Lanes. My name is Hanson, and for this one I've got the 2024 Mercedes-Maybach GLS600. Now, cars have many different functions. They serve different functions for different people, but for this one clearly has one function that it serves really well, and that's to show off. Let me show you. First of all, the price of this vehicle. Everything included, the paint, the wheels. This totals over 200 grand, and that just means that all this car is about excess. This thing even flexes in a weird way. This has recovery mode where the air suspension will make the car bounce up and down should you get your very expensive Maybach stuck on a muddy trail somewhere. And everything considered, is it worth that price tag? Absolutely not. But the point is, why not? The fact that you paid 200K for this thing, that is the exact point for this car. If you look closely, the paint job, this is $18,000. This is the Mojave Silver and the Emerald Green on the bottom. This is not a wrap job. One color isn't painted right above the other one after the fact, although it may be, I'm not really sure, but there's no seam in between. Is it worth that price? Probably not, but the fact that you paid that much for the paint job is the point. And I lied, this is not a $200,000 vehicle because that price includes the $6,000 23-inch forged wheels. This one is only 22 inches. This is the stock wheel. This is the winter spec right now, so I have winter tires associated with it. And to show off that you not only have the already very expensive Mercedes GLS, which is what this vehicle is based off of, but that you have the Maybach version of it. They've added so many logos and emblems to show off for it. For example, you've got this Maybach on the grille, the Maybach badge monogram where fog lights would normally go into, Maybach on the wheel covers, which if you have to change the wheels here, you have to have a special tool to take this cover off. The badge on the D-pillar, the badge on the hatch, and also one more for good measure on the license plate frame. And when you get inside, you've got these steps that will protrude. Of course, there's a badge there. And if it's at night, there's puddle lights here as well to project the Maybach logo. You've got the Maybach door sills, Maybach badge right on the pedals, on the steering wheel, on the palm rest, and even more logos in the second row. And if you look inside, this is normally a 3-row SUV, but this has been converted to a 2-row version. And traditionally, this has 43.4 inches of rear leg room, but there's the chauffeur position, which gives it 52.8 inches of rear leg room. That is just massive. This is a car to be driven in. If you can afford the $200,000 price range, chances are you can afford to have a driver on the payroll so you can sit in these back seats. Now, this is the 4-seater configuration. You can get the 5-seat configuration, but why would you? Because when you sacrifice that center seat, you can get this very elaborate center console. And when you look back here, of course, there's another Maybach badge. You could flip this down, and of course, there's a storage solution for your champagne flutes. And if you look back here, that is a dedicated fridge. And this is not just some sort of a cool box thing where it diverts some of the climate or the HVAC air inside. This is actually a dedicated refrigerator that's sitting in the cargo space, eating up some room. And here you could also change the setting for it. Looking forward, there's this huge center console, some fancy cup holders here. This looks like it can hold your champagne bottle, and yes, you could keep it on ice or actually heat it up. And here's if you have a beer bottle or something like that. And over here, there is a champagne flute holder because you have champagne and you're not holding it at all times. You want to just put it down and this will lock it into place. And then moving backwards, you've got this wireless charger here, 2 USB-C ports over here, 2 USB-C ports for the other person. And then over here, we've got this tablet that will control the MBUX infotainment system. And you don't have to keep this tablet over here because you could just pop it loose and then play around with it. And what I like about this tablet is that you could control your phone settings, your music controls, comfort, and also some of the car settings. Like you can control the roller sunblinds from here. You could close all, and then it will actually just close all of the blinds, including the ones in the back seat. And you could also change the lighting system, the interior, exterior lighting, and also the ambient lighting. You could change the moods in here, and you could see immediately that it's going to change different colors Should you be in the mood to do some work, you can also pull this out. This is an extra package, of course, and you can just play around with your laptop in here. As for the items on the doors, this has the Burmester surround sound system. 3D sound, there's a lot of speakers in here. This is just one of the speaker grills found in this car. And if you look to the side, this is your controls for the seat. Heated seats and also cooled seats. And you can even turn on heated seats and the seat ventilation at the same time, which most cars can't do that. As for the window controls, you can just pull it up once and the blinds will go up. And you can also control the sunroof blinds with that button, and this will roll back forward. And even though the seat is pretty comfortable, you could recline pretty far back. It's not as good as the seat on the right side because this is the executive seat, and here you have that special setting that will push the front seat forward if no one's sitting up there. And to make it just a little bit more special, you've got this Maybach throw pillow here to support your lumbar. For the first row, this is not a bad place to sit either. This is pretty much just like the normal GLS, but it's a bit more glamorous with all of the Maybach badging. Of course, we've got the Maybach on the steering wheel here, on the palm rest. Steering wheel is pretty standard Mercedes. There's touch capacitive buttons on here. I know a lot of people will hate this type of touch capacitive buttons, but I think this one actually works fairly well. The sliders and the menu functions are pretty small, but once you're used to it, it's really not all that bad. There's also heated steering wheel function on the side as well as the motorized adjustments. Then there's paddle shifters to control the 9-speed automatic transmission. The gear lever on the right-hand side, this is pretty much standard Mercedes, very old school and I think pretty fashionable. And of course, it cleans up the center console a bit so that you don't have your gear shifter down here. Opens it up for other possibilities. And of course, as expected, the fit, the feel, and the finish of the materials on the steering wheel and these gear levers are pretty fantastic. It comes to the actual digital screens. This is pretty standard Mercedes. You've got the infotainment, which is a touchscreen, and also this digital driver display, which you can modify to change to the different layouts. You've got classic, Maybach, sport, understated, and also navigation, assistance, off-road, and service mode. I like to keep it in the Maybach display, of course, because this is a Maybach. And also, if you look up here, there's a big heads-up display, and you could also change this up by going to the menu on the digital driver display, and then you could change the contents of the heads-up display. Let's keep it at off-road because this showcases just how massive that heads-up display really is. Looking at the dash, you have 4 vents in the center here, which seems a little bit excessive, but that's all right. And you've got this nice little single row of ambient lighting. This is actually everywhere around the car. And down here, you have your buttons and settings for your climate controls. I'd say this is standard quality for Mercedes, but I do wish for the Maybach version that they would upgrade these switches to something more metal, because some of these things do feel like they don't belong in a $200,000 car. When it comes to the center console, you could roll that forward, and here you have a couple of cup holders, and this is also heated or cooled depending on your beverage. And in front of that, here you have your wireless charger, a couple of USB-C ports. Further back, here you have your touchpad to control the infotainment system, and this works just fine. This is like a directional pad rather than controlling a mouse. Now, this touchpad is surrounded by a series of buttons. This is to change your drive mode controls, and this is your volume dial over here. And these buttons around the side, this is your shortcut for your navigation, radio, telephone. And over here, this is for your 360-degree camera views. And here it goes, it pops up on the infotainment screen. The button below is for your shortcuts for all of the different functions. And then lastly, you have a favorites button that you could set to whatever information that you want. The only downside with these buttons is that it feels a little bit cheap. I'm not pressing on these buttons, but just like kind of tapping on it, it has this really cheap plastic feel. Again, it doesn't seem like this belongs on a $200,000 car. I have seen better fit and finish in much cheaper cars. Now, most importantly, what is it like to drive this thing? Let's go. In the engine bay, you have a 4-liter V8 with twin turbos and also a mild hybrid system. So altogether, it's making 550 horsepower and 538 pound-feet of torque. That engine is attached to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and this has the 4MATIC fully variable all-wheel drive system. So if you really want to bring your VIP somewhere really fast, this will do that. Because for a 6,000 pound car, this thing can go 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. And there's also different driving modes, just like most modern cars, and you can adjust the throttle, the ride comfort, etc., etc. The one differentiating factor here is that since this is a Maybach, of course you have a Maybach mode, and this is basically a more comfortable driving mode setting, just a notch above the comfort level. The throttle response is even more lazy at this level, and the ride quality is more comfortable. Now, I usually ignore comfort modes, but if you call it something cool like Maybach mode, yeah, of course, I'm going to use it. There's also an off-road mode, and here's where you can make the Maybach bounce up and down. And to do this, there are several restrictions. Your car cannot be in park, it has to be in off-road mode, and it has to be moving slower than 15 miles per hour. And of course, the temperatures and various other conditions has to be just right. And then when you're ready, you just hit start, and then the car will bounce up and down. This is a cool party trick, but you can quickly feel sick in it. No other cars from the factory can do this. Now, as for the ride quality, when you're not bouncing up and down, this is very comfortable. Supreme ride comfort. The air suspension expertly soaks up all the bumps. Even the 22-inch low-profile tires do a pretty good job in cushioning the road imperfections. And you should try going over some speed bumps because it'll feel like it's not there. There's also very limited road and wind noise going through the cabin, and the handling is pretty much par for the course for a large 6,000 pound vehicle. Steering is light, but there's decent feedback in here, and the automatic transmission works pretty well and shifts very smoothly. There's also plenty of driver assistance and safety features as well, so you can make driving a bit less of a chore. Now, the most significant part of the driving experience is knowing the fact that it's a Maybach. Either driving it or being driven in it, you feel like you're in the 1%, or at least somewhat related or associated with it. It's a privilege, one that very few people get to experience. So the brand is a symbol of excess, and this SUV is all about excess. From the features, the paint, and the price, is it worth $200,000? Absolutely not, but for those that can afford it, $200,000 is probably a drop in the bucket for them. Well, there you have it. That's my review of the 2024 Mercedes-Benz Maybach GLS600. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've learned something from this video, please consider hitting that like, subscribe, and that notification bell so that you can be notified the next time I make a new video. Thank you so much for watching all the way up to this point. My name is Hanson, and I'll see you in the next one.